Hey guys, I'm Björn from In Flames and you're watching Loud TV with me. The overall theme is obviously not necessarily positive, but I think the vibe is really positive. There's a warmth to the album, to not only how it sounds, but also the way the songs are put together. It was just a different experience than what we had when we did Siren Charms, which is the previous album. That was recorded in Berlin, in the Hansa studio, which is it's a very classic studio. You had bands like U2, David Bowie there, and it's known throughout the decades as a very good studio to record in. And we wanted to try it. Anders was down there visiting, and he called me like right away and said, "Dude, I know exactly where we're gonna record. We're gonna do it there because we'll get all the German vibe in there, the Berlin vibe, and all these bands have been there. Let's try it out." And we did. And I think being there in the wintertime, cold, gray, in this place, which is also historically very heavy in many ways, it affected the vibe on the album. So having that in mind, moving forward doing the Battles album, we had the opportunity to talk to a lot of producers that we really look up to, and ended up deciding on working with Howard Benson. Having that in mind, that we did the colder, slightly darker album. Previous, we wanted to do something, I wouldn't say more uplifting, but on a more positive note. And he said his studio is in LA, and okay, yeah, sure, that's awesome. I can live with that. So we spent 9 weeks in LA instead, and I think that also, having between 25 and 30 degrees every day, rain once, and that was during night, ice cold beer, the barbecue was always constantly running, but also we were super efficient, very inspired and creative. Spent a lot of time in LA writing. I'd say the bulk of the material, I mean, I had my bag of riffs that I always have. It's loose pieces of, like, it could be a verse, it could be a chorus, or it can be more of song ideas. But we always tend to work harder towards the recording. And we did the same thing now. We spent 2.5 weeks, me and Anders, in a house. We built a little studio, and we started working on the material. We had 11 songs in mind for the record, and that's normally how we work. We do the songs. We worked on those songs, filtered it through Howard, his expertise obviously, and thoughts about how we could not redefine in any way, but sort of focus better. And we were really inspired. We continued that process, doing demos and ideas, filtering through Howard, all the way through the recording actually. So we ended up with, 12 songs are on the album now. But we actually made 15 songs, and they all could fit there. But we think an album should have 11, 12 songs. So it's yeah, it was a really good experience. It never is. I mean, we in Flames as a band and or as songwriters, we've never really had a plan. It sounds like we don't know what we're doing, which is true in many ways, but we don't really fuck around when it comes to our music. It needs to be something that we all are proud of and like. That means that we will not try to please everybody. It's a simple fact. We can't. There's no way you can please everybody. You can try to please the 4 or 5, depending on what constellation we're in. You can try doing that, and when you're as close as you can ever get with everybody being happy, that's when we're done. And sometimes people don't like it, or people love it. But in the end, it's us. We're going to play the stuff live. You know, it's we need to believe in it. We need to feel it's true to who we are musically, and we need to feel it's interesting, fun, and challenging, and fucking awesome in order to be able to play it thousands of times. So that's how we approach every album, and we did this now as well. And songwriting starts the same way, as I said, with the bag of riffs, and we take it from there. I mean, we have the basic idea. Before we sort of passed it to Howard so he can filter it, or to Daniel Bergstrand or Fredrik in Fredman or Roberto Lagi. All these guys, we have the basic idea, but a lot of stuff happens there and then. That's sort of the cool thing with being in the studio. You have time to explore, to change things, to, yeah, you know, step outside of what you're used to, and experiment. And if you don't like it in the end, just fucking remove it, you know, and then you start over, and that's what the studio time is about and should be about. Because when you're done and the record is mastered and it is printed on hopefully a vinyl, then we should be as happy as we can be, and that's when we start playing it live. So no, we don't improvise. It's sort of at the moment. If something, it might be great in your head or on the demo, but when you have everything on it and you feel it's not where it needs to be, you can just change it. Live, that's a different scenario, obviously, but no, I kind of like that part of the recording, that part that's still creative and inspirational in a way, but the studio time can be very tedious, very repetitive, and very mechanical in a way, because as soon as you have the song, you just need to nail that riff or that solo or whatever, and you play it 2,000 times before you're happy with it, and that could be repetitive. But this, when you feel like, oh, we're missing something, taking something away, adding something new, that's creative. I like that part. So it's like 2 guys and 4 or 5 girls, or women. No, it was just something to add a different flavor to what we do. Interestingly enough, you talk about you could find old elements and new elements. I'd like to believe that we always do that. I mean, we're never looking over our shoulders to remember who we were, or that shit's always with us. You know, every album has led up to this album. You know, every album led up to Siren Charms. Every album led up to, you know, Sounds of a Playground Fading, or whatever album. It's just the way it works, and we've never been searching for it. We love what we do, and we do it for us, and that's sort of, and we know we have it with us. Sometimes it's more obvious, sometimes it's maybe less obvious, but it's always there. We can't hide from it. It's like in the fingers, in the voice, in the arms, in the way we abuse our instruments, in a way, you know. It's just the way it works. Us as a band sound like this, and we have with us what we hopefully learned along the way. So now that it's quite an interesting story. It begins with Daniel obviously mentioning that he's sort of done with touring. In his words, this is a time with my family that I won't. This is a period of time with my family that I won't, you know, have again, and he didn't want to miss out on it. And I can't argue that, you know. I have a different point of view. I think that being away for long periods of time touring is bad, obviously, but I think I compensate that by I don't need to go to a regular day job when I get back home, which means I could be stay-at-home dad. You know, I can be a dad. I can be home, you know, and a family guy, in a way. But I think that the scales tipped over in the wrong favor for him, and it hasn't for me yet. But there's no arguing that. I mean, if that's how you feel, go with your heart, man. I would do the same thing. I can't. I mean, if he said he fucking hates me, we can discuss it, you know, or he doesn't like the musical direction. Again, we can talk about that. But when it comes to his family, he's the guy that decides, and I have to yeah, it's just a fact. So that was obviously tough, sad. He's been with us for 17 years, and we always sort of imagine us doing this until we were done together. You know. So that was sad. But so when it came to the songwriting and to the recording and the future of In Flames, I was never worried about if we're gonna make it. It's just a matter of practicality. We'll find someone. You know, we'll write the album. We'll go to the US. We'll go to LA. Everybody's a musician in LA, so finding a drummer is probably the least of our problems for the record. And then we'll just audition or find a guy later, and we'll deal with that later. So coming to the studio without a drummer, I always do the programming, very basic programming, just in order to have something to show the rest of the guys. So I program drums, and if there's something important that I feel is important for like the riffing, then I will do something complexer. But in general, it's very simple. And normally Daniel would take that and he'll write his stuff on top, and it'll turn into the drums on the record. And this time around, Howard brought in Joe, which is his like go-to guy in the studio when it comes to the drums, and brought him in for making the drum programming more interesting and having a flavor in a way. And he said, well, this is how I would play it. You mind if I have a go? You know, I could play this. I would say, sure. I mean, instead of finding another guy, why not? He's here. And he started playing, and we just started laughing, and yeah, we were so impressed by the way he played, by his attitude towards drumming, by him being so consistent in his playing. That's exactly how Daniel was. It's exactly how Daniel is as a person, but especially as a drummer. So he ended up playing all the tracks on the record. And towards the end, we sat down at a dinner, and we're like, oh, we should ask the guy, you know, see if he's interested. And it turns out he's a fan of the band. That's probably why he understood us so well. That's why the programming turned out good. And then later on, the actual real drums turned out so good. But, I mean, if we wouldn't have mentioned that Daniel quit and we have a new drummer, nobody would have noticed, that makes me the most proud. And that is also a good testament to what kind of drummer he is. It's not physical combat per se. It's more like your inner struggles, in a way. Like all these, it can be anything from small practical decisions you have to make to big fundamental philosophical conundrums, or even ethical decisions you have to make. And you're constantly torn between like what's good for me and what am I supposed to do, you know, in a way. And also I think you can dig deeper and like in your teens, for instance, that struggle to fit in a way. I think you have it from your early conscious days all the way up until you take down the sign and like signing out and die, basically. Yeah, I think you have those struggles or battles within you, and it's obviously from Andrew's point of view, there could be It could be stuff that is experienced or observations, or it could be philosophical in general. And I think that's what makes it interesting. And really, I can sort of relate to a lot of these things out of my own perspective. And I think most people can relate out of their perspective. And that's what really makes it work in a way. So, yeah, so that's the long and the short of it. Well, it feels really good to be back. I mean, we have such a really long and rich history together with Nuclear Blast. It's been a label that supported us pretty much from the very start. And they really know us, and especially, which I think is even more important, they understand our audience. And work hard to get music out there and making sure everybody gets their, gets what they need and crave. It's a really, really good label for us to work with, and most of the guys are I've known for many, many years, guys and girls, and they know their shit. They know exactly what they're doing, and it makes me happy. I mean, we've been working with different labels in between, and all these experiences have been really, really good and really important for us. But right now it was time to go back. The first show for all of us now, together with Joe, will be in Japan, in Tokyo, on Notfest. That's going to be awesome. It's a great opportunity to reach a lot of people that, you know, probably or maybe wouldn't go to an In Flames show. So it's a great opportunity. Also a little bit daunting. It's the first show. It'll be great. And then we go straight to a US run with Hell Yeah, featuring, as you mentioned, Vinnie Paul. Great bunch of guys. We've known Chad for many years from Mudvayne that we toured with years ago. So that's going to be a lot of fun. There's also From Ashes to New and Source. So really exciting times. That's going to be like 5-6 weeks or something, all the way up until Christmas. Then we go back to Europe, spend Christmas, New Year's, and we go on the road with Avenged Sevenfold and Disturbed for a UK run. And again, great opportunity for us to reach a lot of people. These are two really hardworking bands that we respect and have known for many years, so I'm really excited about that. And then, well, it's touring for the next 3 years.